Obviously a tough loss at home. Thoughts on the game?
Disappointed that we lost. Disappointed. Very disappointed. Thought they played hard.
Major, you knew coming in what their offense was capable of doing, but the second half, 42 points. Was it a matter of, they weren't on the field a lot when they were scoring, but was it a matter of what they did to adjust from halftime, or what did you see there from the defense that allowed that many points?
There's a multitude of things. I mean, from receivers from them, from Memphis making great plays, us being out of position at times, taking the bait on double moves, pass interference penalty that extends a drive. There was also a special teams touchdown in there, that was huge as well. But a lot of their deep shots that they were taking in the first half weren't connecting. We made one play on it in the end zone, but it was a number of things. Whether it was poor technique, poor eyes, pass interference that extends the drive, it was a number of things. But they threw the ball and caught the ball extremely well in the second half.
Coach, in the third quarter, it opened up the scoring. You guys started going back and forth, and I guess it would come down to people would say it'd come down to that fourth down decision that you went and you punted it. What were you thinking on that play, and is that something that you would do again because you want to trust your defense, or is it something that looking through the tape, you would want to rethink?
You're talking about
the punt on you guys were going back and forth, and you guys had a 4th and inches.
At the very end?
Yes.
Did you see second down and third down? Did you watch those downs? Where
Yes.
we didn't get anything? Okay, well, I mean, that's why we punted the ball on fourth down. So we didn't run the ball well on second and third down, so I was not excited about putting the offense who's scoring a bunch of points at midfield. So you want to punt the ball, and the theory is to make them drive as long as they have to go to score. And when you don't get yards on second or third down, the theory is punt the ball, make them have to drive a long way.
Coach, so Winchester with that interception in the end zone, obviously getting overturned. A lot of 50-50 calls with the refs. Do you think they played a big part in this one here?
No, they did their job and did exactly what they were supposed to do, and that's why all of them are replayed, and that's bad ball if you get involved in those excuses.
Major, what do you can you share? What do you tell the guys after a loss like this when they're up 17? Looks like I don't want to say you have it in the bag, but you're pretty close there at the end, and then it slips away.
Told them that they played really hard, played really well in the first half, played really hard in the second half, didn't play as well in the second half. And when you're talking about making a run for your side of the conference in terms of a championship, you have to play well in crunch time. You have to. I mean, all right, well, what does that mean, Coach? It means that you're dialed into your assignments, you understand the situations, whether it's how to take the air out of the ball and get a first down at the end of the game so you don't have to punt it back to them, whether it's understanding that they're hot, you've got to play great red zone defense and force them to kick a field goal. We didn't play well in those crunch time situations. We played well for a majority of the game, but when it came down to it at the end, we did not.
You did mention some of the things that you didn't do well, or the out of positions, or are those at this point, an offense like that can put you in those positions or can cause those things, but is it more on the defensive end and not so much what they were doing, this late in the year to have those kind of breakdowns?
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
I'm just wondering, and the things that you said that didn't happen on the good side, was it more what they were doing to put your defense in that, or do you look at the tape and say, or look at the game and say, we shouldn't be making these kind of mistakes this late in the year?
I'll have to go back to make that answer. I really will have to watch that, Joe. I mean, I can't. I saw one time where we gave up a double move, in a coverage that we shouldn't. So that's more of a technique error. But I'd have to go back and look at, the other things to see where those yards were.
Coach, you guys strive as a coach to make a team one-dimensional. When you guys did make this team one-dimensional, are you kind of worried about their running backs coming in and stuff too?
Yep.
That situation kind of played into your hands, didn't it? You just didn't get things done tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were 4 or 5 in the second half on third down. They were 1 of 8 in the first half. We had 2 takeaways in the first half, none in the second. So those were the things that we've got to do a better job of, is playing better on third down, getting them off the field. We had a pass interference that extended a drive, took the ball away a couple times in the first half. We've got to play that way in the second half, obviously, of this game. You know, to beat a championship-type team. I mean, they're a really good football team. That was not an average team. It was a really good team who's on their way to do some good things this season. But we were definitely in that game and had an opportunity to win that game, no doubt. It's just disappointing we didn't play well in crunch time. Have our guys prepared to play well.
Coach, do you think there's any layover from last week's game? I mean, it's such a short turnover week situation. I mean,
I think that's always in the back of your head, but I never really felt that. You know, I mean, it was in the back of my head. You know, all right, they let this one go, and I felt last night at the hotel and this morning at the hotel that our guys understood. Hey, we're playing for our own destiny. If we win this game, we're right in the thick of things in terms of playing for the conference championship. Now, there's a lot of ball left and a lot of conference games left, but you put yourself in a different class if you go out and win this game. So I thought they were great. The players were great in terms of their mindset and who they were playing and what they were getting ready to play. We just didn't play well, in my opinion. And I'm speaking before I've even watched the tape. But in crunch time situations, when it's taking the air out of the ball and third down defense and red zone defense, I just didn't feel like we played great situational football to close out the game. But that I could be wrong when I watch the tape.
Coach, how do you reset the team? You guys are going to face a tough opponent on the road, ranked Florida, really tough, not in the air but on the ground. And how do you do that as a coach, and how do you want to do that with them coming up this week after this loss?
Well, I mean, you're a competitor. There's only one way to respond. You know, there's only one way to respond. And I talked to them in there. You know, you have to take responsibility for your own actions in life, period. And we've all had good times. We've all had bad times in our life. And you have to ultimately accept responsibility for the way you played, the way you coached, the way you head coached, whatever it is. You have to take responsibility for it and look it dead in the eye. And there were some things that we did that were awesome in the first half and really good in the second half. But there were some things that we did down the stretch of the game in the third and fourth quarter that put us in the position that we ended up in. So you've got to just face it. You've got to face it, and that's part of athletics. It's part of sports. You know, I mean, we're never going to get accustomed to this feeling, but you've got to be honest with yourself and what did I do or not do in crunch time as a player, and then you'll be prepared, or hopefully be better prepared the next time.
Major, you did some good things out there. You look at the offense and scoring, and then getting the running game going a little bit. But when you take a step back this weekend and you prepare for the next game, do you feel like now what you saw from offense, it's almost like now you have to look at the defense? Are there things there that you've seen over the course of 7 games that you have to kind of go and start evaluating, or whether it's you know positions or missed tackles or stuff like that? Just is it in terms of not being so much on offense now, more kind of having to take a look at a hard look at the defense?
Well, you're going to look at personnel, and you're going to look at every phase of the game, whether you win or whether you lose. You're going to evaluate your personnel. Did they play well? Did they deserve the opportunity to stay out there as a starter? Is this featuring our best personnel offensively, defensively? Does this make the most sense special teams wise? You're going to do those regardless. So you're going to evaluate all phases of the football game. But at the same time, there's a lot of things I knew coming into this season in terms of our competitive experience, whether it was a guy like Howard Wilson leaving, Brandon Wilson, Tyus Bowser, Steve Taylor, name them, Cam Malvo, Greg Ward. This team does not have a lot of competitive experience, and it's never an excuse. But hopefully through the last 2 weeks, we're learning as a football team and developing some competitive experience. What does that mean? That means you haven't been in a lot of damn games, and you haven't been in a lot of crunch time situations. And you have to learn those things and learn those lessons and teach those lessons the right way as a coach to get people prepared for the moment the next time. And that's what we've got to do as a staff. Have to do a great job of teaching these guys. They have to do a great job of being open to hear where I didn't make that play in the red zone, or I didn't make that run or that block to take the air out of the ball. This was a team that lost 10 guys who had 256 starts. And so you're seeing some of that competitive experience at times show. You're seeing flashes of greatness because they are good young players or younger players, but at the same time, that's no excuse, but it's the reality of it. So what we've got to do is coach it better and get them better prepared for crunch time and when that moment comes to make the play.
Hey, Garrett. What differences, if any, did you see just being on the defense from the first half to the second half, whether it be from personnel, strategy, anything?
Finish. I think we just got to learn to finish better in the second half.
Garrett, Coach was saying that whether it was position, being in position or not, or tackling, just things like that, they start to add up. Are you a little surprised? I mean, this defense has been so good for so long, and you guys have been able to weather the storm sometimes, but to have a second half like that, does that even surprise you?
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, we got young guys, which is no excuse, but we just got to hone in on the things that we're doing and the details that we're given.
Do you think that they did any? What were they doing different in the second half? Would they do anything with y'all? Secondly, Coach was talking about maybe a couple of double moves that got past y'all and stuff like that.
Yeah, some double moves, some shifts and trades. They game. It's like they game plan when they got in the locker room and they adjusted.
Garrett, Coach did mention, and he said it wasn't an excuse, but at some point, when you lose players and experience, it catches up to you, and you're kind of, as a unit or as a team, you're learning on the fly. You've got guys that don't necessarily have a lot of that game experience. As the season's gone on and guys have gotten some work, have you noticed? I mean, is that valid in terms of? I mean, guys have a lot of young guys out there. Is that kind of catching up to you guys at this point, not having that experience?
Yeah, you got people learning on the fly. The experience is coming with the reps, which is not really enough time. But yeah, you got young guys who haven't been in the heat of the moment, heat of the battle, and at this particular day, we weren't able to fight hard enough.
Duke, Coach was talking about not going for it on fourth down there pretty late in the game because you guys couldn't pick up the yards right there on second and third down. Did you feel like they were doing something defensively to stop you guys? Because y'all ran the ball pretty well for the most part tonight.
When they played, no, it was just a misassignment on the block, so that was
it. Kyle, how do you kind of rally the troops after a loss like this? Is there anything in particular that you think can help y'all to bounce back in the locker room?
I mean, we played hard, and they played hard too. It's just it comes down to finishing and securing the ball, and we lack that at the end. We just need to come back and go back to practice, work hard, and then we got to apply everything that we learned this week and from this loss and the past loss, and just move on to the next game.
Kyle, did you feel like, I mean, just if you look at the way you guys came out and took the lead, that it didn't seem like the Tulsa game was even a factor? Were you happy with it in terms of how the offense came out early and kind of set the tone and took that lead?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we had success moving the ball. It just came down to the last few series, and we didn't execute, and that's on us, and we're going to work on that this week.